Good evening. It's been a while. I took off quite a bit of time there. But I'm back. Hey, what's up, Cookie Man? Yes, you are first. You are indeed first. All right, well, I think what we're going to try to dive into tonight is what we left off working on, which was trying to add support for citations through Anthropic's API. AnthropicClient. And I think where I left off was I just needed to start making some exploratory requests to start to see a little bit of how this all works. Cookie Man, I've been trying to be mod. What do you mean? Like not a mod here, I'm guessing. I don't need a mod on my channel. My channel is so tiny. I'm guessing you're talking about being a mod somewhere else. Cookie Man, please, I don't care. No, Cookie Man, I've had multiple people ask me that. No, I don't need a mod. So, if that's what you're here for, you're wanting to be a mod, that's, you've come to the wrong place. These are not the droids you are looking for. I'm a long way from being overwhelmed. So, a long, long way. All right. I'm gonna see if I can make this work. All right. The key here is not to leak my secrets. Okay, so we're gonna try to do some exploratory testing with Anthropic's API. Let's pull up their documentation. Cookie Man, I've been in stream 24/7. That's fine, man. I mean, everyone's welcome here. You're welcome to hang out. It's like that, but just because you're here doesn't mean like you should be a mod. MM87. Hello said hi. Hello, MM87. How are you? Is everything well with you? I'm hoping so. Anthropic API docs. Oh, actually, I already have the link. I have the link right here. All right, we'll copy that. I don't know if you guys knew this, but you can copy curl commands and paste them into Postman. It's pretty baller. Generate. Let's just call this citations test. Save. We don't need this one because I'm already adding that. Let's see, headers. Let's look at our body. Okay, so the body we're using Claude for Opus. Let's see, we've given a document which has a custom source that looks like this. We've given a title. We've given some context, and then we've set this flag to true. And then we say what color is the grass and sky. So if we send this, save this. If we send this, what happens? There we go, right there. So we have a citation. Fair enough. Jingle Mang Pepin, what are you doing? I am working on adding support for a new feature in the Anthropic API for citations. It's not new. It's been there since January. I just haven't added support for it in my C# SDK. I maintain like a client SDK for the Anthropic API, and so I'm just working on adding functionality to that. I should probably actually pin a message. I'm Cookie Man. Can I see your app so far? This isn't an app. So the thing I'm working on it's not an app. It's like a library, like a library of code that one would use in their application to interact with the Anthropic API. There we go. I mean, if you want to see the library, you can find it on GitHub. Let's see, GitHub. This is the library. There you go. Mangpin, what's the use case? Can you give example? So if you wanted to build an app that integrates with any of Anthropic's models, right? If you wanted to use Claude in your application, you could use my library. Assuming your app's written in C#, you could use my library to do that. So you do .NET add AnthropicClient, and then you'd be off to the races. And then you can do all the normal AI model stuff, you know. get it to generate chat messages, text completions, all that sort of thing. If you're familiar with OpenAI, right? So if you don't know Anthropic, maybe that's not a company you're familiar with. But if you're familiar with ChatGPT or OpenAI, and you've used their API, Anthropic is an OpenAI competitor. They're probably one of the, I would say, between Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google, they're kind of like the three big foundation model providers. Arthur Morgan, shout out. Dixon Mays, I don't know who that is, Arthur. Jiggle, Jess, Steven, let me shout you out on my professional GitHub. Yeah, man, go for it. Happy to get the shout out. Also, I saw your message earlier about, how am I doing, and hope me and my wife are well. Yeah, we're all good here, man. Life's good. Everyone's healthy. Kiddos are healthy. Wife's healthy. I'm healthy. So the rest is icing on the cake. All right, and then if I remove this, or if I set this to false, and I send that, what happens? I don't get citations. Yeah, so I think the first thing I want to do is I just want to be able to model this in code and model the response in code, right? That's like the first thing I should do. So let me go ahead and get NeoVim fired up here. And let's just start by writing a test, yeah? And we'll actually write an end-to-end test. I actually think I need to create an app settings.json file with an Anthropic API key. So let's do that really quick. And obviously I don't want to show you guys my API key, so I'm going to do that off screen. Because that wouldn't be good for business. Also, I know this is the first stream I've done in like 4 or 5 days, so it's I took a little time off there, didn't I? Let's see, console login. Wonder how much I put I think I put $5 on my Anthropic account. I wonder how much I've actually used. You'd be surprised at actually how cheap it is to use some of their smaller models. Now it's not cheap. It's pretty wild. If you use Claude 3 Opus or Claude 4 Opus, it's kind of expensive. But if you use like Sonnet or Haiku, it's pretty surprising how much you can get away with. Yeah, like I put $5 on my account and I've only used 70 cents of it, which is pretty wild. I guess I have to create a new key. Actually, let's create a workspace. We'll call this AnthropicClient. I'm just setting stuff up in Anthropic's console. If you're curious what I'm doing, I'm just doing it off screen because I don't trust myself not to leak my API keys. Okay, there we go. Create a new key here. that. Put that in there. All right. All right, let's run one of my tests just to make sure I've got everything wired up properly. Wired up. Oh goodness. There's a lot of complaints here. I'm gonna have to update my editor config. I built this project, or it's funny, I built this project predates my use of NeoVim. So some of the analyzers that I have wired up in NeoVim are different than the ones I have wired up in VS Code. So some of the errors that OmniSharp is reporting to me right now, I need to edit my, like, instead of being, I want to use var, I don't want to use explicit types. Yeah, all of these are things that I need to silence in my editor config. But let's just see if I can get this test to run. So these are end-to-end tests. So these tests actually make real API calls out to Anthropic's API. And I'm planning to start this development process by adding some more end-to-end tests here before I do anything else. Hey, what's up, Inspire? How are you? Need an opinion? Yeah, man. I'm happy to give you my opinion. It may not be good, but I'm happy to give it. Okay, that worked. It passed. So let's go down here to the very bottom. And let's add a new test. Actually, let's add it where the rest of the create message async. There we go. We'll just add it here. All right, fact, public async task, create message async when citations are enabled. It should return citations in response, like that. And so now writing tests this way, right? This is a nice way to kind of, you can almost do like wishful programming, right? We can kind of step backwards into the things we need to do differently. So we need a client, we need a request, and then we need to call create message async. So we'll say var request equals new message request. That looks right, although we're not going to have an enable citations here. Why is this angry? Is that an extra? Yeah. Oh, I think I need to go turn the air up. Or I mean turn the air down because I'm feeling hot. Meng Peipen, still don't get it. Is it consumable on by end user or some kind like completion tools on IDE compile time? Okay, so maybe Meng Pin. This is kind of surprising me a little bit because AI is such a big deal. But basically, you know how like you can go to ChatGPT and you can say, "Hey, ChatGPT, what time is it?" Right? You can basically do that. Or you can go to Anthropic's, you can go to Claude, right? You can go to Claude.ai and say, "Hey, what time is it?" Right? So under the hood, you're sending a request against their foundation models, right? You're talking to, in this case, I'm talking to, I think, Claude Sonnet 4. And in this case, I'm talking to, I'm not sure what model I'm talking to here. Probably ChatGPT, I don't know, 4.0 mini or something. But the idea basically is these companies all provide access to their foundation models through an API, right? You can send a request, you can get a response from a foundation model. So I built a library, right? A C# library that allows people to interact with the Anthropic API easier, right? Than implementing it from scratch yourself every time. And so that's what I'm working on right now. You've probably used lots of SDKs like that, right? If you've built anything with Stripe, you probably used a Stripe SDK. If you built a Discord bot with Discord.js, you're using a Discord SDK, right? It's a language specific implementation of their API. Inspire. I've been quite sick the past few days, and I have to go for an internship tomorrow, but thought the experience would be lovely. I mean, I think Inspire, you should try to. I think you should try to communicate to whoever is running that internship and just see if they can understand that you're sick and you don't want to get other people sick, and so can they accommodate you missing a couple days. I mean, I don't think it's worth getting other people sick. I wouldn't risk it myself. Jiggle Jest, fact. Yes, fact. Right? Is that what you're talking about? The fact attribute here? That's how XUnit declares test methods. I use Doom Emacs, by the way. I've never done anything with Emacs. Landon Russell, have you seen how bad Apple Intelligence is? I've seen the memes. I've seen the Reddit and Twitter memes. I haven't used it at all myself. I don't think I have a phone that's new enough to use it. Mengpin, I get it. So you, to use your lib on dev side, only have to provide the API key, right? Exactly. Yeah, you create net. You can everything. All you have to do is say, crap. I keep like if you're building a .NET app, you could just install this with .NET add package, and then you just new up a client, and then you can start using the client however you want to use it. Oscar Software Development Kit. Yeah, SDK, exactly. It's SDK is like a short way of just saying, it's got everything you need to interact with the API, right? It's like, here's all the tools you would need. It's supposed to be a way for companies to make it easier for you to adopt their tool into your language, right? That's why, like, if you go to the MCP right? Model context protocol. It's .io, yeah. So if you go here, right? Look at all those SDKs they have now, right? This is so that you don't have to implement the protocol yourself. You can just install one of these SDKs and you're off to the races, right? So that's the benefit of an SDK is you don't have to do all the hand-crafted implementation yourself. And I think Anthropic only has they only have two SDKs. They have a TypeScript one and a Python one. And the other ones are just, all the others are community SDKs. I guess they have a Go one now too, and a Java. Oh, they have way more. They have a Python, they have a TypeScript, they have a Java, and a Go one. Oh, and a Ruby one. But they don't have a C# one. So that's why I built one. Goose Poos. Steven, were you born in a bathtub? No, I was not born in a bathtub. La Uzi. I've built 4 MCP servers this week. That's awesome, dude. What'd you build them around? I think MCP servers are very cool. Mang Pepin. I wonder what to expect in this kind of library since the response is dynamic, right? Or do you just mock it? So the response is dynamic in the sense that the text the model generates, but the contract is well defined, right? So they give you a well defined, like, this is the shape of the response you can expect, and then from that response you can extract the actual generated text that the model, the response of the model, but it's in a well structured form. So you're developing against a contract, right? That's the only way you can have client SDKs is your API has to provide some sort of a well-defined contract. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to build SDKs. Okay, so at this point, Mohammed Salih, can you create tools, cybersecurity for AI? I'm not sure I know what you mean, Mohammed. I'm not sure. So maybe try explaining a little bit differently, or maybe asking the question in a little bit different way. So here are the messages, right? Here are the messages I'm trying to recreate. So I have 2 messages here. I have one that says role user content. Well, I guess I have 2 content blocks. I have a text block that is what color is the grass and sky. So let's copy that. Then I need another one, and this one isn't text content. This should really be document. This should be a document. New document content. Although I don't know. Let's see, media and data. So I think I have to change the way I've modeled this piece of content a little bit, because right now I only support PDF at the moment. So I think I'm going to have to do some refactoring to make this work. But I need to do it in a way that's backwards compatible so I don't break other people that might be already using this. La Uzi, Node.js, I made a code interpreter that supports Bash, PHP, JavaScript, and Python so far. Made one to interface with Puppeteer for dynamic web scraping, one for task list management, one for Discord. That's really cool. I would love to see, if the code's available, I would love to see repos. If you wouldn't mind joining our Discord and sharing a link to those projects, I'm sure some of us would really, really love to see them. Because definitely the code interpreter one seems really cool. Mohammed, I don't know coding, and I want to build cybersecurity tools using AI. You could probably get pretty far doing some vibe coding, Mohammed. I think the tricky part there is that's probably a domain where you should probably have some subject matter expertise to make sure that the AI is actually building what you think it's building, right? So I think that's the part of building with AI is you still need some level of knowledge or understanding about what you're doing so you can sort of trust but verify the output of the AI, right? So I wouldn't like discourage you from doing that. I would say, yeah, go for it, you know. Get Claude code and see how far you can get, but I think you should be weary of the output of an AI. Mang Pepino, it takes 10 years for you to build it from scratch. 10 years to build what? I guess that's the thing I don't understand. Mang Pen, nah, AI need context what we're doing. Yeah, I guess that's the whole thing is like I don't know what cybersecurity tools you'd be wanting to build. Um you know, so how what it would take and how hard it would be. Like if you wanted to if you wanted to like recreate some sophisticated existing cybersecurity piece of software, right? You're have a very steep hill to climb. But if it's something simplistic, or if you're trying to automate some sort of manual task that you're already doing as part of your job or something, right? There might be a possibility there. All right, so here's the problem. I have this document content object. And right now, what this document content object is doing is it's basically saying, it's basically only exposing constructors that allow you to pass the media type and the data. Because it's basically expecting everything to be a base 64 file. But that's not always true anymore. So they support this text source type. They also support these optional properties of title and context. Okay, so the way to fix this probably, or the way to do this in a way that I don't break something is probably like I definitely need to extend this. I definitely need to have um, I need to have title, context, and citations, all of which can be optional. So public string title, public string context, and these really should probably be null. They should be null, or they should be nullable. And what was the other one? Citations. Public citations. Or should this just be like a flag that somebody sets? Like enable citations. This is the part I'll always overthink stuff like this. La OZ application pending for, oh, awesome. One sec. Let me add you. Approve. You're approved, man. Yeah, I would love to see the code. If you don't mind sharing it, that'd be awesome. That would be superb. Because I did build an MCP server on stream like last month, and it was a lot of fun. So I'd love to see what other people are doing with it. All right, I need to not get hung up. Let's just make progress. Let's focus on making progress. So for now, we will call this citation option, and we will call this citation. And this will, to begin with, will be a new citation option. And we will just jump down here really quick, and we will say public class citation option. And this will be public bool enabled, and by default it will be false. Or should it be null? Maybe it should be null. I mean, I don't think it hurts anything if it's always there. I'm not a big fan of nullable properties. I'm not a big fan of them. So let's just set sensible defaults and okay. And then we need to expand our list of constructors here. which I really hate that I'm doing this, but I'm going to add 2 new constructors that have document content, and they accept a document source, and they accept a document source like that. And then another one that accepts document source and cache control. So the reason I'm doing this is because the way the Anthropic API has evolved over time is it used to be that the only type of document source was a base 64 encoded file, like a PDF or like a JPEG. But now this source object is kind of becoming more polymorphic. And so I need to support that. And every time we create a document content object, I don't want to have to pass in the media type, the data, the type of the source. I'll just make the caller give me the source, construct the right document source, and pass it to me is what I'll do. At least that's my thinking now. I don't know. I could rethink this whole thing after a couple nights hacking on this. Mang Pepin. The fuck? I just noticed that you code on PowerShell. I code in NeoVim. Or right now I am. Since January of this year, I started using NeoVim. And my preferred editor is PowerShell. Or my preferred shell is PowerShell. And so since I'm using NeoVim, which is a terminal-based editor, I'm using NeoVim PowerShell. A lot of people comment on that. A lot of people seem to think it's wild that I develop on a Windows machine, that I use PowerShell, and that I use NeoVim on a Windows machine in PowerShell. Pigeon, hey, remember me? I do remember you, Pigeon. How are you? Abhishek Kumar, hey, what's up, Abhishek? How are you? Long time no see. Mang Pepin, what is document content? HTTP response message? No, so whenever you send a request to the API, you're basically going to send it with this kind of a payload. You're going to have You're going to have a list of messages. Each message has a role. It either can be user, it can either be user, or it can be the model. And then each message also has content, and the content are a list of content objects. These are polymorphic objects that take on different shapes. So you can have text content, right? You can have document content. You can have tool content. So there's different types of content that can make up your messages content. So you might have, in this case, we have 2 different content objects. We have a text content, and then we have a document content. So that's what the document content is about in my code. Pigeon, fine, man. Thanks. Yeah, man. Long time no see. It's good to see people come back. I mean, I know I was the problem there for the last 4 or 5 days. I went to visit some family and then took off 4 days of streaming, but I'm back now. Hello, Tall Hall. Long time no see too there, man. It's been a minute. Hope you guys are all doing well. All right, so I had looked at this earlier. Here we go. So here's the different document types. So you can have plain text, PDF, or custom content. Okay, so that changes things a little bit, doesn't it? Do I have an image content block? Let me look. Here we go, image content. So I do have image content separate from, and then I have image source. Image source is also base 64. Okay, so only document content can support citations at the moment. And so I just basically need to have different versions of the document source. Right now I just have a single document source that represents base 64 documents. And so what I need to do is I need to have a plain text, and then I need custom. Custom content documents give you control over citation granularity. No additional chunking is done, and chunks are provided to the model according to the content blocks provided. We support 3 document types for citations. Documents can be provided directly in the message or uploaded via the Files API. This is another feature that I haven't added support for yet. Hey, what's up, Web Dev Cody? How are you? It is going well. It is going well, sir. Love all the content you've been doing lately. Appreciate all you share with us. We all owe you many, many coffees. Pigeon, yeah, sorry for not coming back. I found your channel while you were learning Go, and I stopped doing Go, so I didn't come back as often. Yeah, I was learning Go there for a little bit. Like we made it through all the web dev, learn by examples, and I haven't gone back to it after that. So I'm in the same boat as you, Pigeon. I would like to. I was saying, I don't know, a week ago that it would be cool to learn Go well enough to do Advent of Code this year in Go. I think that would be kind of a nice goal for the second half of this year. Dibyajit. Hello, how are you doing, good sir? I'm doing well, man. Sorry if I butchered your first name. That it's a me problem, not a you problem. I'm bad at pronouncing names. Mang Pepin subscribed. Gotta go now. But once I found you use Mediator and anything, I will unsubscribe. I don't know, man. I really like Jimmy Bogard. I don't know if you guys know who Jimmy Bogard is. He's the guy that built Mediator. And there's a big hubbub in the .NET world because Mediator is going to kind of not a paid license. Like there's still going to be a free version of it, but if you want to use it in like commercial projects, you'll have to buy a license. And I know a lot of people are very angry about that. which I don't understand. I feel like if if somebody spent a decade of time building something that a lot of people are getting value from in commercial projects, I don't have a problem with them saying, you know what, I need to make a living too. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time shitting on Mediator because I like Jimmy Bogart. He's obviously a very smart dev, uh, and I want to see him succeed. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a zero sum game, despite what the world wants to make you think. Uh, you know, we can all win. All right, back to the task at hand. Um, all right, so let's just go back to our test because I feel like having a test keeps me grounded to like an actual purpose, and I don't get lost in what's the best way to model this and what's the best way to what's the right API for this thing. Okay, so I think instead of this would be document content, but instead of doing this right here, I think ideally I would pass in a new text document source like that. Which I don't have. That doesn't exist yet. I'm just kind of wishful thinking here. And in this case, I would just have to provide the text. That's all I would provide. So we would just do this. Yeah, I think that feels right for the moment. So let's go over here to our models, which are my models folder here is getting a little out of control, isn't it? Text document source, like that. Now the question is, do I inherit from document source and try to override some stuff, or should I just have this be? Well, it needs to inherit. It needs to inherit. It actually it has to inherit for this to work. So yes, so we're going to inherit from document source, and then we're just going to call the base constructor. Yeah. We want to call the base constructor, but we want to override the type, right? Because this is, right now, this is always set to base 64. And for our text document source, we want this to be set to text. So what's the best way to do that? Let's go back to text. Where is it? Text document, there you go. Namespace, AnthropicClient.models, public class, text document source, inherits from document source, like that. I think what I can do is I can just have a single constructor here. I'm not going to worry about the documents at or the comments right now. So we don't need to take media type, and we can just take data. Media type is always going to be, for this type of object, it's always going to be text plain, like that. Text plain. Now the type, we can just set in here, and we can say type equals text. And I think that will prevent us from breaking anybody who's already using this document source. But still give us a way to instantiate it in our tests. Yep, there we go. Okay. Now, the other thing is we can say, I don't know if this is the right way to do this yet. I'm going to have to think about this some more. This is like my first stab, right, at the citation support. Where am I trying to go to? I'm trying to go to this guy. So the other thing I need to do in here is I need to say title equals something. Context equals something. And then I'll say citation equals new citation, or we can just do new enabled equals true. So again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take this request that I'm making through Postman, and I'm trying to write an end-to-end test that basically replicates this request and then also allows me to deserialize the response, right? Because that's what an SDK really is. An SDK is really just a modeling of all the request objects and all the response objects in a useful, a useful or ergonomic way, right? So you don't have to do it yourself in your application again and again and again. So let's see, the title here is my document. The context is this is a trustworthy document. I'm not sure I understand 100% what the context does for the model. I might need to read their docs a little bit more. It was actually kind of interesting in their documentation. I love this about AI stuff. In their documentation, it literally says, where is it? It says Claude Sonnet 3.5 may be less likely to make citations compared to other Claude models without more explicit instructions from the user. When using citations with Claude Sonnet 3.7, we recommend including additional instructions in the user turn, like use citations to back up your answer. I just love that I love these little notes that kind of betray the probabilistic nature of the systems that we're working with now, which is like, I don't know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. If you put this extra sentence in there, it'll work better. I don't know. I find it very interesting. Strawberry Jam. I want to get into JavaScript. I'm really skilled in Scratch coding because it's the most accessible for people my age. Any tips for beginners or something I don't really know? So my Strawberry Jam, my go-to place for learning to code, I'll put the link here in the chat for you, is Free Code Camp. Obviously, actually, WebDev Cody, I'm actually gonna link his channel because he was also a part of my learning journey personally. So I found that Free Code Camp was really great for a structured way to approach learning how to code. Right now, it's pretty heavy on the web dev side, but it gives you a structured curriculum that you can follow, which is nice because it gives you direction and holds you accountable. But there's several YouTube channels that helped me when I was learning to code. WebDev Cody is one of them. He has tons of great content, and his content kind of spans the gamut of like web dev, DevOps. Like it's there's great stuff. You can mine it for wonderful things in there. There's also another one called, is it called Web Simplified or something like that? Sorry, I don't remember the exact. Web Dev Simplified is another great YouTube channel that's helped me a ton. I think the guy that runs this channel, his name's Kyle, I want to say. I'm not 100% what his full name is. Um, but he's got really great tutorials and really great content. So those two YouTube channels for from the web dev JavaScript approach are great, and then obviously Free Code Camp. I'm kind of a shill for Free Code Camp. I just think they're a wonderful organization. The other advice I'd have for you is, since you're already doing stuff with Scratch, which, if I'm not mistaken, Scratch is that MIT project, right? Yeah, that's the MIT project. So if you're already doing stuff like this, it might be interesting for you to try to take one of your Scratch projects, or maybe, 3 or 4, I don't know how many, but take maybe some of those interesting Scratch projects that you built and try to re-implement them as a website, right? Or as a web app. That might be an interesting way to learn. I think it's important when you're learning that you build projects. And Free Code Camp has that as part of their curriculum, but that might be kind of an interesting way for you to take your existing knowledge about something and try to create a new mental model using JavaScript, So hopefully that was helpful. Obviously, I'm n equals 1 when it comes to what's the right way to learn how to code, but that's kind of my 2 cents. Okay, I think I have this modeled. At least the request. The request is modeled to reflect. Actually, hold on. This should be citations, shouldn't it? Citations. Okay. Now let's work on the response. Yeah, of course, Strawberry Jam. Yeah, always happy to lend my thoughts. My opinion, obviously my opinions are my own and they're n equals 1, but I'm always happy to pitch in if I can. Okay, so our result value, this is, so I used, in this project, I actually used the results pattern. So kind of funny talking about Go earlier. Pigeon was talking about learning Go. So Go has this idea of basically almost every operation gives you back a result or an error like this. And so you have to check if there's an error. You have to deal with the fact that there could possibly be an error, or you should. And so I kind of used a similar, I kind of used a results pattern in that way in this application, where whenever you call the API, or whenever you call Anthropic's API, right, your request can be successful or it cannot be successful. And so if the result is successful, then the value is the response object. And so you can see this is where you have your content, the ID, the model, the role, the stop reason, the tool call, if there is a tool call. So those are all properties that come from the response here. And when you enable citations, see, this should be true. When you enable citations, The only thing that really changes is that now on your text responses, you have this citations property, which is a list of citations. So what I need to do is I basically need to extend the so let's say result.value.content of type text content, right? And then we can say not select, but probably aggregate. Is that the right? No, it should be what is the right link method for reduce? It's aggregate. So we'll say, yeah, something like this. But what we should also have in here is we should also be able to say, like we should be able to do something like this. We should be able to say select mini c dot citations, like that. So basically we should be able to say, give me all the citations from all the text content. There should be some citation in there. But right now we can't because that doesn't exist, but let's make it exist. So we could do public list of, well, actually, we can probably just make this an array. Citation, that. And then we just need to model the citation. Hey, what's up, Arkin? How are you? Yes, long time no see indeed, sir. I took, what was it, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off from streaming. I went back to my hometown in Joplin, Missouri, and saw my folks, saw my mom, my stepdad, and hung out with them. My kids always love being with their grandparents. So that was a lot of fun. And obviously, while I'm there, I can't stream. So that's where I've been the last few days, if anybody's been wondering. But now I'm back home and back to normal schedule. Which really, I should say normal schedule, but my schedule is really just like, if I feel like streaming, then I stream. Which, it's as long as it still remains fun, you know? Alright. Whenever I'm building a class in C#, or really any language, if I'm building a class and it's based on JSON, one thing I like to do is I always like to paste the JSON here in a comment so that I can see it and reference it instead of like flipping back and forth. Obviously, if you're working on like 2 monitors, this is probably not an issue, but if you're working in a constrained space like me, this is what I do. I know there's also in Visual Studio, you can actually paste JSON as class, which is pretty cool. And I think VS Code has that feature now too. VS Code C# paste JSON as class. Oh, maybe it's just maybe you have to install an extension for it to work in Visual Studio. But I do know in Visual Studio Code, I do know in Visual Studio they have the ability to paste JSON as a class. But we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way here. So we'll say public. Oh, Copilot probably can help us too. Type, cited text, document index, document title. Yep, that looks right. Although I don't think I need either of these constructors. I do need to add some custom property names here. You can definitely tell that the people at Anthropic love their Python because there's so much snake case running around in all their code, their public facing code. There's a lot of snake case. Not that there's anything wrong with snake case, it's just I am personally partial towards camel case property names myself. Arc and broader family visits are awesome. Yeah, longer trips. You know, I mean, my wife and I kind of have a conflicting experience about this. Like, we love spending time with our family, and when we were younger, you know, it was much simpler because it was just us, right? But now we have 2 kids, and we're both older, and so now we're almost to this point where like long trips are fun, but they would be much more enjoyable, I think, if we had our own space. Like if we got like an Airbnb, because like our families to the point now, and our kids are to the point now where like it's just difficult for 4 people to go stay in somebody else's house for like an extended period of time, right? So I don't know. That might be something we do more of in the future, is like try to rent an Airbnb or get a hotel room. I mean, it's nice to have all that time with your family. It's just you're kind of on top of each other. You know what I mean? All right, let's see if this works. I think this is to a point where this should work. Also, I don't know if there's different types of citations. This has me concerned. I'm sure they do this. I'm sure they add a type property to almost every object in their public API so that they can extend it, right? Let's see, citations. Yeah, it looks like, oh no, there are different types. There's page location. And yeah, so this is polymorphic. So and there's also content block location. We have to do this. We have to do the streaming part of this too. I didn't even think about that. That's gonna be a whole. Okay, so I need different types of citations. So from a C# developer's perspective, in my opinion, it's a much better experience to work with strongly typed objects than to have like one citation and then have to check the type to figure out what properties are populated. I think the much better experience is to have an abstract base class, and then when you're deserializing the JSON, you deserialize the JSON to strongly typed objects. So in this case, we need to figure out what the common properties are. Right, so like the type is a common property, cited text is a common property, document title and index looks like they're common. But these properties, right, start character index, start page number, end page number, these properties are unique to the concrete, the concrete object, not the abstract object. So yeah, I think this is going to be an abstract class. It's going to have a type. Whoops. And then we're going to have a public class, which inherits from citation. This will be a character location citation. And so these properties will go on this object. We'll set this to string.empty. And then we'll do that for the other citation types. So we need page location and content block location. Public class. It's already, Copilot's trying to already figuring out what we want. So we want page location, then we want public class content block citation. Trying to keep the naming consistent. So content block location citation. I'm gonna put this off to the other side, make my life a little easier. All right, so then we're gonna say, whoops, where'd my reference go here? There we go. So this has a start page number, and this has content blocks. So this would be, yep, just like that. Okay, so again, at this point, you're probably thinking like, there's probably somebody out there that's like, this is why I hate object-oriented programming and inheritance and yada, yada, yada. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but the alternative to doing what I'm doing here, where I have this abstract class and then concrete examples of them, someone's probably going to say, well, why don't you just have one citation class with a type property, put all these properties into the citation class, and then just have the caller check the type, right? And you could do that. You could most definitely do that. You can most definitely have a situation where your caller, every time it gets a citation, so imagine we have a citation, right? That's like this. And we say switch. Yeah, like, right? So you can even see, like, Copilot already knows, like, we could definitely have something like this, right? And then if it's the type character location, we do something, or we access properties differently, right? You could definitely do that. However, I feel like it's a much better experience to use strong types, because then we can do all kinds of pattern matching things, right? So then we can say, if we had a citation, we could do things like if citation is character location citation, we get access to a whole different set of language features in C# uh, that we can use if we have strong types we deserialize to strong types. So that's why I've taken this approach, and I've taken this approach in this SDK pretty much all over the place. And the nice thing is, if someone doesn't want to deal with the strong types, that's fine. If they just want to deal with the abstract type, that's fine. They can still switch off the type field. The type property is still there for them to work with if they want to. But this way, we've sort of opened the door for them to use strongly typed objects and pattern matching, or they're welcome to use the base class and just use the type to figure out what to cast to. Colby, I want to be a software engineer when I get older. Well, that's awesome, Colby. Do it, man. Go for it. You ever seen that scene from what's up? What's up, Noku? How are you? Doing well? Hello, Toad Sage. How are you doing? Fujiya. Did you also have experience with Game Maker code, GML code? I don't have much experience with game development in general. That's kind of a newer thing for me. At this point in my life, I've only built one game, and it was Snake, and it was implemented in JavaScript. But what I was going to say to Colby is, have you ever seen, whenever somebody says, I want to be XYZ when I grow up, I always think of this clip from this movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. Pursuit of Happiness. Go get it. That'll probably bring it up. So there's this scene where, like, you kind of have to watch the whole movie to understand the context, but there's this scene in this movie where Will Smith is playing this gentleman who's kind of like, he's fighting to like make a better life for him and his kid. And let me see if I can scoot forward here. Well, we can just watch the whole thing. That's good. Let me turn it up a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. You'll probably be about as good as I was. That's kind of the way it works.
So, like, if you didn't hear, like, the conversation they're happening is like they're playing basketball, and his kid is saying, like, I want to be, like a professional basketball player. And so the dad, though, is like kind of like tempering his optimism.
And I was below average. So you'll probably ultimately rank somewhere around there, so you'll excel at a lot of things, just not this. I don't want you out here shooting this ball around all day and night, all right?
All right.
Okay? All right, go ahead.
And like the kid gets upset, right? He's like angry. Which who isn't angry? Like how many times have you probably like expressed your dreams or your desires, or like how Colby said right there, where he's like, "This is what I want to do when I get older." How many times did you grow up, or even as an adult, express that and you have somebody react that way of like, oh, don't get your hopes up, right?
Hey,
This is like my favorite part right here.
don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right?
Alright.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
So good, man. It's like that part gives me goosebumps every time, like, and like as a dad, I feel that sometimes. I feel that too as like a dad sometimes when I'm talking to my kids. It's like, as an adult, you carry all this like you carry all this sense of like reality, like, nah, man, like the world doesn't work like that. Like the likelihood of you being like my oldest son, he wants to be a professional football player, and the likelihood of that happening is very small. Um, but you don't want to crush others' dreams or desires, right? You just want to encourage them. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Whenever I hear people say stuff like Colby said, I want to be an engineer when I'm older, I always think of that scene as like, yeah, man, you gotta whatever your dream is, you gotta protect it, and regardless of what anybody says, it's up to you, man. You go make it happen. Toad Stage 1 p.m. stream. For me, it's an 11:14 p.m. stream. Toad Stage, man, Asian parents in a nutshell. Yeah, I mean, we've all probably had that experience, right? You're like, I want to be a actor when I grow up, or I want to be XYZ when I grow up. I mean, I think for a lot of us, I'm 32, right? So like I grew up playing video games, but I grew up very much in a time where like video games was only seen as like a waste of time, right? Like there was no future. There was no future in playing video games. And man, like how untrue that is, right? Like people make tons of money at playing video games. Granted, that's a hard road and it's competitive and you got to work really hard at it. Um, but I just think of like how many people that were probably my age who could have been a ninja or could have been a Tim the Tap Man who just stopped playing because their parents were like, "Hey, you need to stop wasting your time on those video games." Turn the music back down a little bit. That was quite the derailment, but I don't know. Those are the just things I want to share with you guys when they pop into my brain. Noku, the power of time zones. Yes, time zones are powerful, but they're also kind of a mind fuck. Toad says, I can't even imagine saying to my dad that I want to be a gamer or something. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like Will Smith's right there in that scene is like, man, you got a dream, you got to protect it, and if you want something, you got to go get it. Right? I think a lot of people what they miss in that is they have a dream, but they expect others to help them make it happen, and that's where you fall, right? Cuz like if it's your dream, that's awesome, but you have to go make it happen. Noku, true freeborn wisdom. I don't know how wise I am, but I do try. All right, so okay, so if you're not in the .NET world, then you don't know that at this point now that I have a base citation class, and I have these other, what do I want to call them? Derived classes. I basically need what we call a custom converter to deal with this during deserialization. So you can see I have some existing converters here. So basically all a converter does is it basically tells the serializer how it should handle that particular type, is basically what it does. So in this case, let's go to the content converter. You can kind of see where in this case you're saying, hey, when you encounter a content type, this is how you should read it, right? And this is how you should write it. So we need to implement a similar thing for the citations. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to yank that and say, what do we want to call this? Citation converter? Yeah, citation converter. And I'm going to paste that in there. And then I'm going to rename this to citation converter, citation, like that. And this is obviously complaining because none of these are real types there. This is going to be a citation. Okay, so that's the gist of what you need to do. Now what you have to do with the converter is you have to register it with your serializer. So we have a serializer here, and we'll add our citation converter. And then we'll go back to our citation converter, and now we'll actually implement it. So in this case, we want, we probably, so I don't like magic strings. Actually, I hate magic strings. So I'm going to create a class like this that's called citation type that just holds constants for the different types. So let's create a model. We'll call it citation type.cs. And we'll do a namespace, public static class, citation type. And then we just need to figure out what are all the types, right? So we have character location, that, document location, or no, page location, that, and then we have, what was the last one? Content something, content block. That. So then we can use that in our converter. So now we're not dealing with magic screens. Now we can say citation type, in which case we will deserialize to a character location citation. Let's see, character or page location. This should be there we go. And then if we get a type that we haven't specifically called out here, we'll just throw. Which maybe that's not the best way to handle it, but it's very explicit, right? If they introduce a new type of a citation, we'll know it because there will be errors. Okay, I think that's enough for my test to work. Famous last words, but I think that's enough for my test to actually succeed now. So we'll go back over here. And we'll go, so you can see now this actually doesn't complain. And let's actually try to send this request. See if this works. Nope, it did not work. Let's see what's it say. Expected result dot success to be true but found false. Okay, so for some reason the request failed. So we just need to see what is the reason it failed. So I need to debug this, but I cannot debug this in this tiny of a window, so I'm going to make my window full screen, and you guys probably aren't going to be able to see my debugger. So forgive me. Forgive me. Oh, you know what it is? It's because I think this requires a specific header to be set. Oh, no, it's because I'm using the wrong model. So this model, Claude 3 Haiku, does not support citations. That's why. And they actually call that out in their docs, so that's on me. Let's see. What models does support it? Citations feature is currently available on 4, Claude Opus 4, Claude Sonnet 4, Claude Sonnet 3.7, and Claude Sonnet 3.5, Haiku 3.5. So let's do Haiku 3.5. And let's run it again. See what happens. Looks like it was successful. Cool. So we've got some citations now. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, that's pretty. Hey, look at us. You know, we're over here just adding features and writing code and doing stuff, man. That's what it's all about. All right, so let's just see if this works the way I think it is. So if I switch this to false, that should mean now my citation should be empty. Try again here. Noku, oh yeah, was wondering, did you ever get Bluetooth working? I did. I did get Bluetooth working. So it was funny. Oh man, I spent, what was it, like 2 hours on that stream fucking around with Bluetooth. And literally, so after the stream ended, I shut down the computer. I unplugged the capture card that was plugged into the computer. I turned the computer back on, and the Bluetooth worked. Like the devices that I couldn't get to pair on stream paired. And so yeah, it was a waste of 2 hours of my life for no reason. But the new computer rocks, man. The new computer is just like, now when I use my other computer, it's painful. So this is the current specs on the Whoops. For those interested on the new computer. So we're working with it's a last year's i7. Does it call it out here? It's an i7 14700 is the processor. But the best part is the memory, is the RAM. We're working with like 64 gigabytes of RAM. It's awesome. It's the most RAM I've ever had in a computer, and now I want double. Now I want 128 gigabytes of RAM. Like, does that ever end? Like, you just always want more RAM? Vab, can you teach me C++? I cannot, Vab. I don't know how to write C++. We could learn it together, but I could not teach you. Unfortunately. Noku, dang, that hurts. Yeah, it was very painful. It did hurt. See you, Toad Sage. Have a good day, man. Thanks for stopping in, saying hi. Appreciate it. Always enjoy seeing friendly faces that I've seen before. I guess probably what I should do is I should probably verify that I can get each type of citation. That would probably be useful thing to do. Like, I should probably make sure that I can get a page location from a PDF document. And I should probably make sure I can get the start block and end block index. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. I think I need to add tests. I need to add tests for where the document source is each of the different types of document source that we can have. We can have plain text, we can have PDF, or we can have custom content. So we just need to write a test for each of those, I think, would be a good next place to go. Obviously, when you add tests, right? Like, what I know that's probably something people think about a lot, and I guess I'll share how I think about it. But when you're writing tests, right? In this project, I have 3 types of tests. I have end-to-end tests, I have integration tests, and I have unit tests. So the way I think about it is end-to-end means, in the context of this library, it means you're going all the way from a request into the client and then all through the client code and then actually out to the Anthropic API and actually getting a live response back. My integration tests are everything I just said, aside from the fact that I'm not actually making a live request. Instead, I'm mocking the response from the Anthropic API. And then a unit test would be, I'm just testing like individual components, right? Like a single class or a single method with all the dependencies of that class or method mocked out. And I think the majority of my tests in this library fall into the integration test bucket. But having the ability to have end-to-end tests that actually hit the live API is really nice, because as you're like doing the initial development, you can sort of like program against the real thing. But you don't want to write all your tests as end-to-end tests, right? Like that's going to be expensive and not as fast. I mean, it's still going to be pretty fast in this context, but not as fast as you'd like it to be. So usually what I do is I try to write end-to-end tests that cover like all the like smoke test cases, right? And then for all the nitty-gritty edge cases, that's where I try to use integration tests or unit tests. So that's how I kind of approach it. But I usually start by writing end-to-end tests. I write like maybe 1, 2, 3 of those, 3 or 4 of those. And then for all the edge cases, I'll write integration tests and unit tests to cover all the like sad paths, right? That's my approach typically. Noku, more denoted wham. I don't even know what you just said, Noku. Vav LO, I thought you were writing C++. What are you writing? This is C# is what I'm writing. I don't know if you've ever taken a look at C#, but it's a pretty great language. I would highly recommend you give it a try. Dogman, yo, what's up, bro? Hello, Dogman, how are you? Ducties, good evening. Good evening, Ducties. I hope you are doing well. I am going to commit this, though. Let's see. This is going to be... So git add, git commit feature initial pass at citations request and responses. All right, that feels good. We actually made some progress on this. So the next thing for me to do is really just to make sure I finish modeling all the different document sources. And I think I honestly just have one more. It's the custom document source. That's the only one left I need to model. And then I think I might be done. I thought this was going to be way more involved than what it was, but I think I might be done after that. Oh, no, I'm not done. I need to implement the streaming support. So the streaming support will probably be a little tricky. Yeah, it's actually funny. If you look at the code, I left this in there because I thought it was funny. Let's see, Anthropic API client. Where is it? Okay. It was really funny. So I left this comment in there. I know this is not pretty, but here's why. And the reason I put this was because this method that handles streaming responses, right? So like if you've ever worked with ChatGPT or Claude, you know how in their UI the word or the text comes in like chunks. It streams across the page. So my SDK supports returning responses in that way, so you can stream them in. But it's kind of messy doing it because you're basically just reading a line from the stream at a time. And as you're doing that, you have to For better or worse, you basically have to handle all the different polymorphic events that can come in. So you end up with this really nasty code that's basically just a lot of if statements that's checking to see if it's a particular type, and if it is a particular type, then you do one thing. Um, and in my particular case, I'm also like, at the same time as I'm like yielding the individual events that are being streamed back to me in this response, at the same time I'm also building up the whole response. So I have to keep track of everything that was coming in that response. It's just funny because it's like I looked at this code for so long trying to think like, could I write this better, or how would I write this different? And I went through a bunch of iterations of like abstracting all of this out into like separate methods. And I was like, you know what? I think that makes it less readable. I think this is probably as readable as it's going to get for now. And I just left it. So I'm gonna have to add to this code to handle this new what do they call it? They call it a citations delta is what they call it. So that'll be fun. Noku, it's a reference to a kid who at Minecon tried asking how much dedicated RAM was needed to run a Minecraft server, but said denominated wham. Okay. I've never heard that reference before, but that is funny. Dogman, lamp oil, rope, bombs. You want it? It's yours, my friend, as long as you got enough rupees. I have no idea what you're talking about, Dogman. That's like the most random chat message ever. Noku, some implementations are just plain nasty at times. Yeah, and I figured maybe somebody at someday would look at this code. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just be apologetic from the start. Let me just take an apologetic stance. Crystal Riviera, why aren't you vibe coding? It's 2025. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, man. I haven't caught the vibe coding bug. I've tried vibe coding twice now, and here was my experience with it. I can see how people find it addictive, particularly, or I can see how people find it attractive, particularly people who don't know how to code. However, if you know how to code and you enjoy coding, to me, it's not as attractive. Like, I know like Web Dev Cody has made a lot of content recently around this, and he's using Cursor a lot. And he's said that he's like vibe coding a ton, and which I think is great. Like, no, I don't have like, you code how you want to code, but my experience with vibe coding was I enjoyed coding less. Like, if I had to having to prompt the model to do what I wanted when I myself could just do what it is I wanted was kind of painful. So that isn't to say that I'm anti AI. I just work with it differently. I don't work with it in a vibe coding sense. The way I work with AI from a coding perspective is I use AI in my editor for tab completion. I use that a hell of a lot. So, I'll type some code, I'll wait till Copilot makes a suggestion, I'll look at the suggestion, and then I'll tab to complete it. The other way I work with AI a lot is just in separate apps. So I subscribe to Gemini Pro. I also subscribe to Copilot. And so a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll just come in here and be like, okay, here's what I want to do. Here's the idea I have. And I'll ask Copilot or I'll ask Gemini. I'll say, can you tell me how you would do it? Like, how would you implement this feature? And I'll just have a running conversation. And that will usually yield some code that I will then use in my own code base. Like I'll just copy and paste it over. But yeah, the whole agentic vibe coding, only prompt, like only submit prompts to get the AI to do what I want to do. I haven't quite found my, I don't know, sweet spot, I guess, for it. Maybe it's a skill issue on my part. So I'm not anti-AI. I haven't integrated. I guess I haven't found the proper way for me to enjoy doing vibe coding. Right. I do have agent mode set up in VS Code, and I should say that's the only, like when I say vibe coding, that's the only vibe coding experience I've had so far is using Copilot agent mode. I haven't tried Cursor. I haven't tried Windsurf. I haven't tried Claude Code, which I probably should, given how much I interact with Anthropic's API and Claude. But I have used, so I will say, here's one thing I really have enjoyed using agent mode in Copilot for, is I've loved using it for documentation. So like I've had it write me several readmes. I've also had it generate XML comments and JS doc comments for a lot of things, which was great. Like what was one of the, I worked on a project recently where I basically wanted to create the same DI system that you get in minimal APIs, but create it so it works for Hano in TypeScript. And so I had Copilot. I basically wrote the code. Like I wrote all the code. The library's pretty small. Like this library just has 2 functions here in this library. And then I basically had Copilot write all this. I had it write the XML or the JS doc comments, and then I also had it write the README. But I had it do that inside VS Code in agent mode. I was basically like, hey, look at this code, look at the code base, look at this project, and draft me a comprehensive README. And it just went to town. So that was awesome. Noku, what is vibe coding? Yeah, Noku, when I think of vibe coding, and maybe I'm misportraying vibe coding, but when I think of vibe coding, I'm thinking of people who just are doing something greenfield, like they have an idea for a project, there's no existing code base, and they're just prompting their way to an app, right? Like, I want a form, I want it to have these inputs. That's what I think of vibe coding, is like it's just pure prompting an AI to generate you code. There's probably people who think it's more subtle than that, but that's my definition of it. Which I think is wonderful for like prototyping and for designers and product managers who don't maybe know how to do all the things that are necessary to stand up a POC, and you can leverage Claude to do that instead of maybe being handicapped or bottlenecked by having to have a developer or some technical resource. But I think if someone was to come to me tomorrow and said, Steven, in order to be a developer, you can only use agentic editors and you can only prompt the LLM, I would be like, I don't know if I want to do that job anymore. Like, I still want to be able to write code. I still want to be able to solve problems in code. That's still part of the fun for me. So, I don't know. I'm torn. Crystal Rivera, what are you building anyways? Tonight what we're building is, or what we're working on tonight is, we're working on like a client SDK for the Anthropic API, right? And it's a C# SDK, right? So this is This is a way to make it easier for you in your .NET application, your C# application, to make requests to the Anthropic API. So if you want to use the Claude family of foundation models to generate responses or facilitate whatever feature or functionality you wanted in your .NET app, you could use my SDK. It doesn't have a ton of downloads. It has like 2,000, 1,500. Sorry, I lied. It has like 1,500 downloads. So it's not used a ton. But I use it personally. And so, yeah, I just try to keep up with it. As Anthropic releases new features, I try to fold those features in. It's just a fun side project to work with. Keeps me connected to what's going on in the AI space. Gives me an opportunity to read up on stuff. Gives me a reason to read up on stuff. I don't actually know if I'm going to do any more tonight, though. 146 lines changed. I mean, goodness gracious, how productive are we? Oh, you know what I am going to do? I'm going to update my editor config to get rid of all these squiggly lines because they're bothering me. Excuse me. Let's see, var. Oops. True suggestion. Oops. Okay. And then this one, expression value is never used. I do not care about that. What was the warning number on that? ID 0058. ID 00. These are all just like style rules or that you can configure using the editor config file, and so that's what I'm doing right now. Let's see, remove the underscores from member name. Okay, I just want to suppress this, so actually I want to do this. It's stuff like this where you start to realize sometimes it's nice to work with a ID like Visual Studio who puts all this stuff behind a form UI. Okay, what was the other warning? This one? CA 1707. CA 1707. Roshan Nepal. Hello, Roshan. How are you? Thanks for stopping by, man. Alright, I think we got rid of all our squigglies. Oh. Guess we need to make all these static. Lambda functions can be static if they do not capture any instance variables or any... Basically, if they don't capture anything in the surrounding scope, then you can make them static. I bet I have lots of places where I need to fix that in this project. So git add, git commit, mchore, update editor, config, /fix, analyzer. Nice. All right. Look at us. Just doing stuff. All right. Oh, I've been live for 2 hours? Dang, oh, it's already midnight. Shit. Okay. Well, guys, I have to work in the morning, so I think I'm going to be signing off. Yeah, I'm going to be signing off. I don't know what the content for the stream's going to look like this week. It's probably going to be a little bit of bouncing around. I have this Anthropic API project I'd like to work on. I have the React router app that we started building that might work on that a little bit. So we'll see. There'll be a little mix of everything. There's some stuff I want to try on stream that I haven't got to yet. I'd like to spend some more time learning Go. So we'll see. We'll mix it up. But we'll definitely have some fun. We'll drink some coffee. We'll write some code and we'll chat. That's what I can promise you. Jupiter and Earth, a question for you. Who is a skilled developer? Is any... are you saying I'm a skilled developer? Because that's very kind of you. Is any application able to generate logs for future troubleshooting, or is it a functionality that must be coded? You can for sure do some stuff. So typically logging is most helpful when it's kind of curated to your app or your... How do I put this? Logging is most helpful when it surfaces the information that helps you troubleshoot a problem. And part of knowing what to log is obviously part of knowing what your application does and what's kind of mission critical for your application to function. There is some amount of this is you need to code the logging into your app. Like you need to implement logging in your app. There are tools though that can help you do a lot of like auto instrumentation, right? And when I think of that, I think of like OpenTelemetry. If you're familiar with, I don't know how familiar you are with it, but there's this standard called OpenTelemetry, which is sort of this protocol standard for how to collect logs, traces, and metrics from your application. And they have SDKs for a bunch of different languages: JavaScript, Go, C#, Java, and their SDKs a lot of the times will have some sort of auto instrumentation to them, to where you can basically, in the .NET world, let's see, .NET, getting started. Let me see if I can show you an example. So like you can do something as simple as this, where in the .NET world, you have a host or you have a builder, you add OpenTelemetry, and then you can make calls like this that just say add ASP.NET Core instrumentation. And that will just automatically wire up a bunch of logging and a bunch of tracing to your application automatically, right? And then you can add on that if you want to, but it'll just automatically be collecting traces and logs. Now, obviously, you have to tell it where to send it, right? Like you can, like in this case, they're just sending it to the console. But in most cases, you'd probably want to send this to a backend that's made for logging and observability. You'd probably want to use like Grafana or Seek, or in the JavaScript world, Sentry. I don't know if Sentry supports OpenTelemetry. Let's see. So it looks like they're in the process of trying to support it based on this. But yeah, so basically, to answer your question, for sure there are tools to help you just get up and running with generating logs. But a lot of the value from logging comes from like your expert knowledge of your app and your system, and what would be helpful to log and what wouldn't be helpful to log. So yeah, and I do this with my own applications. Jupiter, I wasn't aware of OpenTelemetry. I will need to search for it. It's for a legacy application that is having issues and the vendor ceased to exist. Ah, that sucks, man. That is tough. But yeah, you could, yeah, it just depends, right? The devil's in the details, but I know like OpenTelemetry does have a lot of support for just auto instrumenting stuff in your code. Like there's a lot of effort that's been put into the SDKs to make it convenient for developers to collect logs and traces and metrics. But I think in a lot of cases, yeah, logging is something you're going to have to implement yourself. And man, is it super helpful. Like I actually, of course, Jupiter and Earth. I don't know how helpful I was there, but hopefully it maybe points you in the right direction. I use something called Seek for most of my .NET applications. I mean, you can log from Node applications as well. Like I have a Node app that logs here as well. But like you can, the benefit of logging and tracing, right, is then you get visibility into what's going on with your stuff, and like you can then expand the logs and the traces over time if there's other things you want to investigate or things you want to be aware of or errors you want to catch. But personally, I'm primarily use Seek these days just because it's pretty simple to get up and running, and most things that I build these days can log to Seek in a structured way pretty easily. All right. It's exactly midnight, or 1 minute after midnight, so I'm going to bounce. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, if you're around, drop in. Otherwise, I'll see another stream or a video or short. You're also welcome to join our Discord. I'll drop that link right there. That's the best place to interact with us outside of stream, or interact with me outside of stream. And yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your, I guess, whatever's left of your now Wednesday, or maybe Thursday for you. And hopefully you guys have an even better tomorrow. All right, y'all.